Some people never go crazy. What truly horrible lives they must lead. That's Charles Bukowski, a man who rolled in the inebriated mud of human filth with a gleeful desperation so severe you could believe that the fate of the trembling balance of heaven and hell itself was at stake. Old Hank fought sanity from within a whirlpool of rot gut, found his fleeting solace in the soiled skirts of whores. He was a man who strove to tongue-kiss the pock-scarred face of his personal madness. And aside from the smacking irony of those eloquently juxtaposed sentences of his that I opened this review with, the sentiment itself invites serious contemplation. Why are lives so truly horrible if they know no madness? What is it about madness that the most honest and courageous of us crave? What exactly is Tom Waits waiting in line for on that corner of Heart Attack and Vine? Questions. The sacrament of inquiry. Who's with me? Who here has not tried to obliterate the artifice of reason that polite society has grafted onto our psyche? Who here has not consumed enough booze for 10 men, ingested copious amounts of hallucinogens for a chance to glimpse their God? Who has not sat trembling in a sleepless room at dawn, with infinite sorrow pulsing through their veins along with the angry fixes pumped into those same at the night before? But drugs are not the only path to madness. Why does the runner run till he forgets who he is? Why does the lover surrender his life to his love? Why does the artist cut open his torso and invite anyone with a pin to come and take a poke at his vital organs? Madness. Madness. Who does not have the small, fleeting thoughts of murder or suicide? Who has not abandoned everything at some point in their lives, given up hope, cursed the thing they love most in this world? Who among us has not performed their tiny private apocalypses? You know, that sin that's yours, that no one else on earth knows about, that personal terror you'll take to your grave. Blow winds and crack your cheeks, rage, blow! That's King Lear, a man who shattered his kingdom like broken teeth and set out upon the countryside with a fool as his tour guide. Consumed with a grief-fueled insanity, Lear faced the storm of his life, and it was only when he was madder than the fool that he found his humility and wisdom. Humility and wisdom. Now there might be something there. For Bukowski, for Lear, for the central character Johnny in Mike Leigh's 1993 film Naked. The film in question here, by the way. Played with cutthroat precision by David Thewlis, Johnny sets off to London after viciously raping a woman in a Manchester back alley. He invades the apartment of his ex-girlfriend Louise and her roommate Sophie. After an intense, sadistic buggering with Sophie, which gets her to fall in love with him, Johnny sets out on a tumultuous tour of the London underbelly. Armed with a rancid tongue and a savage wit, he engages the creatures he meets with a baleful curiosity, vicious contempt, and above all, a monolithic condescension. He helps a brutal man reunite with his tragic girlfriend. He shows a pensive night watchman that the future is doomed and that the meaning of life is a farce. He dangles affection in front of a drunk hag, only so he can retract it with vindictive glee. Throughout it all, he muses angrily on subjects like inevitable sorrow, resolve, and self-fulfilling prophecy, and it becomes increasingly clear that the Shakespearean storm he resolves to bring upon himself, whether he knows it or not, is a resolve itself, a self-fulfilling prophecy born of anger, guilt, and inevitable sorrow. When Johnny's storm comes, it's a fierce hailstorm of loss, swinging steel-toed boots to his ribs and a flurry of fists descending from the black alley sky. In its aftermath, Johnny has an episode that's heartbreaking and cathartic, the stuff of Lear and Bukowski. And as horrible as it is for him to have it, it would have been more horrible if he didn't. He saw truth in that storm. He found humility and wisdom in that madness. Friends, we seek madness because it is only in madness that we are stripped to our essences. It is only in madness that we are beautifully, sacredly naked. It is only the mad who are humble, free of hubris and pride. And it is only those who know humility who can see their God, who can achieve wisdom, and who can know thyself. So, Mike Leigh, guys, I mean, I think that this film has less to, you guys will be able to tell me more. I think that this film has less to do with depression than it does with sort of the self-fulfilling madness that this guy needs to find. That's why I kind of focused on that instead of depression. I mean, are you guys seeing it different? How did it fit into the context of the show here, Dave?
I don't know. For me, it's just a film that I've always, since I saw it a long, long time ago, it was probably 96 maybe I saw it. And ever since then, I've always gone back to that film.
Mm.
It's been one of those movies that I will always watch if it's around, like there's just moods I get in where it's like, yeah, I'm going to watch Naked. That's what I feel like right now. And
Yeah.
So I think it fits in probably more to just a certain way I feel rather than a general idea of depression, you know?
Yeah, I didn't feel, and again, listen, I'm not an expert on this. I don't suffer with it to the extent that it sounds like you guys do, but it seemed like it was a little bit less about depression, and that has nothing to do with the quality of the film. I love it. In fact, it's maybe one of the handful of films I actually gave 5 stars to on Netflix, and let me qualify that. It's that Netflix gives you their suggestions on your queue based on how you rate films,
Right,
so
right.
I just
It's hard to
across
be honest.
yeah, well, across the board, even if the movie sucks, I give everything 4 stars because I want to be shown everything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to withhold a suggestion. Why would I do that? That's like imbeciles would do something like that. So I just give everything 4 stars, except I noticed when I put this one back on the queue to review it here, I gave it 5 stars for some reason, and I must have really loved it the first time I watched it, which it just goes to show you that I guess myself a bit mad after seeing it.
Well, listen, for this guy Johnny to do the thing that he did, to do the things that he does throughout the film, constantly intentionally putting himself in harm's way, constantly setting himself up to experience pain and humility and awfulness, that is depression. There's nothing more depressing than doing that to yourself. He is constantly making sure he cannot succeed at anything. I mean, throughout the movie, I mean, he could go back to that apartment at any time, but he continues to just rough it until he gets the beating that he knows that he deserves. So he is so just fed up with himself, and this bullshit intellectual guard that he puts up to hide who he really is. This man is extremely depressed, extremely, in one of the worst ways that I've seen.
Yeah, I think it's just my personal misunderstanding or misconception of what it is, of what depression is, and that's
Max,
probably why I
feel
was
about
grappling
Johnny?
with it.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, hi, John.
What are you at, Tom? Got short hair, don't you?
I do.
Why do you have that? Why'd you yell at the girl? It's a good girl. Just trying to give you what you want, isn't she? What are you doing? Yelling at her? Why would you do that? Live out there, and where do you live now?
New Jersey.
New Jersey? Do they yell at young girls to give you haircuts in Jersey then?
When they don't do it right, sure.
Odd strikes me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, Tom, right now. Because at first I was with Joe. Didn't understand why it's a film about depression. Bullshit. Guess what? You just nailed it. Didn't see why we were talking about this one, in fact. But guess what? He does put himself in harm's way every time. I thought it was an extraordinary performance by David Thewlis. But I didn't feel much for this film, Tom, have to admit. Don't know why. I thought it was a lot of fun while I was watching it. A bit of a meandering mess, if you will. At times he reminded me a little bit of Alex Delage from Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange, didn't he? And then he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Fleeting into the night. I thought the most powerful scenes were the ones between him and the security guard, didn't I? I thought those were essential when you really think about it.
That whole middle of the film, Johnny, was unbelievable.
Right? But the scabrous whore he kept fucking, what the hell was she about?
I don't know.
You knew that relationship was doomed from the get in the go. And then he winds off limping.
She kind of looked like the girl that Christiana was talking to at the bar I was at with him the other night.
You guys dropped out for a while there. What's going on? I'm sorry. I just came back in.
Oh, you're kind of cute tonight. You're like, hey guys, I don't really understand this whole depression thing.
I really don't. I'm a little bit out of sorts here, to be honest with you.
But no, it's amazing though, Joe. I think this is cause for celebration because you really don't grasp the uncompromising sorrow, the self-punishment. I mean, I would imagine that tells me you're somewhat evolved. Am I wrong, Dave?
No, I think that's pretty. That'd be pretty good.
I'm kind of having like Joe envy right now.
Yeah, definitely.
he's very grounded. Joe.
Well, I'm
Saying that as being a sarcastic douchebag. I'm sincere. I am so happy that you're happy.
I listen. My life isn't a parade of happiness all the time. You know, believe me, there's moments of darkness for sure. And I think that, and listen, for me to admit that I don't understand something is not the easiest thing in the world for me either. So, I just feel like I just should be listening to you guys here. So I want to just ask questions, basically.
Yeah, but don't think you're not a part of a club that, you just don't belong in or something. I mean, it's refreshing. And also the fact that you're an extremely artistic dude.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I was trying to get at before is that my way of combating that and not becoming basically what my father was before me is through my art. I don't know, whenever I feel like I'm constantly making something, and I don't know if that means, and I don't understand depression. I don't know if that's me fending off. I don't
Dude,
know.
what was
You know
your
what
dad? What was your dad? Is he dead?
Yeah, he passed a few years ago. He passed, I guess maybe 9 years ago now, 9 to 10 years ago, something like that. So
Was
yeah.
that a big blow to you, or was it a relief?
Yeah, it was a big blow to me. But listen, he would go and not talk to my mother for like 2-3 weeks because he was all locked up in his head. You know what I mean? So my whole thing was my whole mission in life, like I was saying before, is not to become that. So my way of
I'm saying, Joe, are you
it's
trying
sort of
so
self-therapy, you know what I mean? So like, and I'm afraid of it. Art is like my self-therapy, you know what I mean? And I don't know if it's that I just don't have what you guys have, or it's that I'm fending it off, that I'm afraid of it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going on with me, So, and I don't know it, so I'm asking questions, that's all. So
Are you fighting so hard against a sadness that you're like overcompensating a little bit? Because you sound like you're getting a little manic yourself.
Well, yes, man. I mean, I think that's it. I refuse to let myself.
You sound like you're defending yourself. Are you defending yourself? You sound like you're putting up a sword and a shield. Am I wrong, fellas?
Well, what do you mean?
No, it's definitely a sensitive issue.
Joe, you're the only dude in your family that managed to escape all of this shit, right?
Oh, man.
Addiction, darkness, depression, torment. I mean, it sounds to me like you were able to... you were the strongest one. You were the strongest Christiana male in your family, correct?
Well, my brother's having a rough time with it, man. Like, he's having a hugely difficult time with it. We're all scarred. Like, we all have scars, and I have issues. I have serious issues, man, But the last thing I want to do is fashion my life right now the way, or have what happens to my marriage and my family, what happened to mine when I was a kid. Look, well,
no, because you have genuine love for your family, so you wouldn't put them in harm's way or whatever.
The way my conception of depression is that you can't help it, and that's what I've feared, and that's what I'm asking, I guess, essentially, is that if my floundering question earlier on the first segment was how to get out of it, I want to know what it is in case it starts happening. I could try to wiggle my way out of it, and I realize at some level that you can't wiggle your way out of it, and that's what frightens me. You know what I mean? So I don't. It's hard for me to come to terms with.
Well, Dave, you're not on antidepressants, right?
No, I'm not.
Now, why is that? That's by choice, obviously.
Yeah, I guess it's by choice.
Because you enjoy suffering, and it strengthens you, really. And you fear being numbed out by a pill is going to take away your creative edge. Fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. That's always a concern.
Well, that's why I'm not on fucking antidepressants, because I don't want to lose my maxness.
That's right. I know exactly how you feel.
And that's why I don't go to therapy either, by the way. Like, I've never considered it.
Well, I go to therapy. All right? I talk to a dude.
Does that help with your maxness?
Well, it doesn't help in the fact that he's very entertained and he laughs a lot during the sessions.
Are you entertained by him?
No.
No. Okay.
Why would I be entertained by him?
I don't know. I'm just asking because he could be an interesting character.
Yeah, but that's not their job. Their job is to be objective listeners.
I've never been in the. I understand that. I've never been in the.
Take it easy.
All right.
But the fact is, this guy turns beet red and is wiping tears from his eyes laughing. It's an HBO comedy special. And I appreciate the fact that he's having such a good time, but it's a little tough for me. Understand?
That's amazing.
I don't think I've ever admitted I've been on therapy except on this show.
That's not true.
So take that, Detlef.
All right. Take it easy now, pal. Trying to discover things here tonight, not cause harm.
I just wish Joe wouldn't fight so hard against things that won't take him down.
So
I think you're very healthy, Joe.
Well, Joe, do you think that your father, because he was depressed? I didn't know your dad that well, but in your, and what you're saying here tonight, he seemed to have a lot of depression, and this hurt his ability to love.
Oh, geez, Tom. I think that he did love us, but I think that he loved people, but I think it was very difficult for him to express it, I guess.
Right.
But it was just a very trying circumstance in my house, the way that and
you keep asking, well, how, what's the end line with
listen,
depression?
I think
and
probably,
it seems to me that it's death is the only true way to shake it. One way or the other.
Yeah.
You're right, Tom. I'll tell you guys something. Just yesterday, my father-in-law, who I have no relationship with for 20 years, he called me out of the blue yesterday offering me a gun. He has dementia, and I think he's kind of closing down shop in his world. He calls me up. He doesn't even say hello. I answer the phone. Frank, I have an offer for you. Whoa. You have an offer? I'm going to give you one of my guns. Okay, thank you. I know you're shooting guns, so I'm going to give you mine. Okay. I have a permit for it, so you got to get a permit. All right. I'm not giving you any shells. No, I don't want any shells. I'll give it to you when we meet in Vegas, because we're supposed to meet her parents in Vegas in May. So it's like, is this some shady gun deal with my father-in-law in some back alley in Vegas?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Why is he hold on, why does he want to get rid of the thing so badly?
Tom, I think he wants me to kill myself with it.
Yeah, or maybe he's done something with it and he doesn't want it traced.
It's a 32. A 32? You mean a 38? No, I mean it's a 32.
So hold on a second.
No one gives anyone a 32, dude.
He's really excited about giving you this gun.
Dude, he is so excited about giving me this fucking gun. And I'm going to take it to the range and consult my boy Randy out at the range, the range officer. And I'm going to learn how to shoot this gun. And I'm going to get a permit for it. And I'll never touch it again. Because who wants to shoot a 32, fellas?
Yeah, I certainly don't. I mean, you know my feelings about guns anyway. I mean, I can't stand
Yeah, I know, Tom. That goes back to when we were on the show, when I was on the show the first time.
First time you were a guest, that was...
Surprise, both of you weren't into guns.
No. Well, just because we're from New Jersey, you think everybody has a gun out here? You watch too many Sopranos episodes.
Talk about depression.
Yeah. By the way, real quick, and we're going to get back to Naked in just a second. I just gave Joe the first season of The Sopranos.
Joe,
Yes.
do me a favor.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not Max.
Joe, stop slurping. Just listen to me.
Okay. I'm all ears.
You have to give it the entire first season because the first season is so neurotic. It's finding itself. It doesn't know. It knows what it wants to be subconsciously. But the first pilot, you're going to be like, what the fuck? Is this a comedy? It settles into something.
All right, I'll watch it.
So much compromise. But Joe, this is fucking major, and you have to keep us posted. In fact, you can't sit out any more cutting rooms because we now have a Joe C. Sopranos update.
Update. Yes, I like it, Max. I like it.
Okay, I promise. I know it's important to you guys. I appreciate that it's important to you guys. And I'm finally going to...
Oh, it's fucking religion. Do you understand?
Okay, all right.
Isms.
Hey,
Ism.
listen, did anyone else watch Mike Leigh's Naked with the subtitles on?
I did. I definitely.
Because I did,
Yeah, I did.
and it helped.
I did it the
It
first.
made it a better movie.
Well, the first time I didn't, and then the second, this last viewing I did, and it does help because
really
there's
does.
a lot of nuance to the
It's
language.
so, and then, yeah, the movie is beautifully written, beautifully.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't find a single flaw in the dialogue, and anything in this film is just absolutely brilliant. And it is kind of like a Clockwork Orange what Johnny goes through, if you think about it. Especially at the end of A Clockwork Orange, when he gets thrown back out into the world, it seems like it reminds me of what Alex went through. I've never watched a Mike Leigh movie before. Joe, are you a fan?
I am, and I've actually wanted to cover him like in depth on the show here. Every movie that I see of his, again, it's just one's more interesting than the other. I've seen Happy Go Lucky, which is really a lot of fun, and then another One More Year or Another Year. What do you guys know that one? The title of that one? And then I've seen another one of his too, and they're all. He's always an interesting filmmaker, and always doing something new and something somewhat surprising. He's always gripping to me, man.
Yeah, he's. I know this film is 20 years old, but it seemed like this film had almost like a punkish, youthful attitude to it. He's an old. He made this when he was like 50 years old.
Yeah, well, it's definitely he's definitely got the bohemian thing going.
Absolutely, yeah. Max, I mean, let's talk seriously now. About Naked for a couple minutes. Were you into it at all? I mean, you mentioned A Clockwork Orange when you were doing your David Thewlis channeling. I get the feeling you really got into this movie.
I did while it was happening, and then I didn't think twice about it. I seriously was bewildered as to why it was falling under the category of a depression film. But then
You just gave me shit for saying it wasn't depression.
No, I didn't. Not about this film.
Yeah,
Oh.
and let him finish, Joe.
What?
No, Joe, I agree with you.
No, this is what Joe does. He and Joe, before he came on the show, was like, "Oh, I'm not going to pick any fights." He cuts Max off right there and immediately becomes combative.
I'm not. I'm having a conversation with Max, Tom. That's how discourse works. You understand how it goes?
Oh no, Joe! Can you please explain to me how it works,
yeah,
please?
It's when somebody's talking, you have an intercourse with them. What the fuck are you talking about, Tom? Leave me alone. I'm talking with Max. Go away.
Hey, I don't remember me disputing you on that at all.
Oh, I thought you were.
No. Here's what I said. I said, you really had me. Wait. Oh, and then Tom said it was about depression. But I was with you in the beginning.
Oh. Yeah, I wasn't sure. So you didn't think that this was about depression either, huh?
Well, I didn't. But then Tom mentioned that the fact that this guy is kind of self-annihilating and that he's throwing himself into situations that cause him great harm. And I guess that was him being in a depressive state, self-annihilating. I understood that, and I really appreciated Tom saying that. But when you were reading your review, I was with you 100%. Now, I might be still on the fence, but I might be leaning more towards what Tom said. But as I was watching it, before I heard what Tom said, it felt sort of celebratory. It felt like this kind of nihilistic dude challenging all kinds of interesting characters. You know what I mean? I have to say that as a film itself, it didn't really stick with me long after I watched it. I certainly enjoyed the experience. As I was watching it, I was like, I'm into this. And then it was like, well, that's over. And it didn't overpower me at all. And what was crazy, though, is that I went back and forth with Dave a bit. And Dave says that a lot of this was improvised, especially by Thewlis. Is that correct, Dave?
Yeah, it is. It's almost all improvised.
Oh my!
Well, that blew my fucking head off.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Holy cow! I mean, geez. I mean, Mike Leigh gets credit for writing the film. Oddly enough, I just assumed that they were working off of a script.
But what they did apparently was he took them out to this cottage for a couple of weeks before they shot, and basically had them be in character at the cottage for a couple of weeks, and just had them just run scenes together and just rehearse in character, and then threw them in front of the camera, and they had a basic framework of a story, but otherwise they were improvising.
All these characters in this film, they're all depressed, and they all do things that just they drive themselves crazy. Whether it's Sophie or Louise, Sophie with falling in love with Johnny almost immediately, Louise for going back to Johnny. You know,
Well,
I mean,
I think it was Roger Ebert who described the sex scenes in this movie as not so much love scenes as people wounding themselves against each other.
absolutely.
Uh,
No
that's-
love, no
yeah.
romance. It's not even pornographic.
No, it's just pretty disturbing
It's extremely disturbing.
and sad.
It is a see. I mean, I found this film to be extremely depressing. Honestly, I mean, even the ending itself is just
The
fucking-
music.
it's just depressing,
Yeah,
man.
I love
music
the
was
music.
great.
The music is so good.
I mean, listen, if we were still giving star ratings, I'd really come close into giving this a 5-star movie. I fucking love this movie, man.
Hey, Max.
time.
Oh,
Hey,
I
Max, you
loved
said-
it too. Growing up, when I first saw it, I absolutely
Fucking
fell in
love
with
it, man.
Absolutely
Love it.
fell-
And I'm pissed that I never saw it before.
Oh wow!
Max, you said that the movie didn't stick with you after you watched it. You know what really hit home with me on the second viewing here was that scene after he got beat and he stumbled into the apartment and he goes to grab the hand of that prick. Like that just seemed really powerful to me, and it seemed more powerful on the second viewing. Did that not stick with you after you watched the film?
Well, I was more confused because I thought he reached out to Underwear Dude and said, "My brother" or something. And I'm like, are they brothers? Is that what this is all about?
This was a
Right.
little bit confusing.
And it was really vague.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I didn't. Yeah. I hear you. Go on, Joe.
It's sort of what I fashioned my intro around was that scene because it was perplexing to me the first time too, and then the second time I didn't even really look for sort of an answer. I just thought that what he was saying was either gibberish or something that they invented as a backstory toward his character, but it didn't really have any bearing on actually what happened. But it's just a moment of like, I've seen it with some of my friends and been in a state of like it's severe inebriation, like severe, and like just talking gibberish and like just being in a completely like not in your mind whatsoever, like completely mad. It's almost like when you wake up in the middle of a nightmare and you're talking in your sleep and you're not saying anything that makes any sort of sense. And just watching it for the second time, I just thought that was just an incredibly powerful scene, and especially how this actor is just. He's just amazing that, everything built up to that. And this total humility and just complete madness is everything that he's been working toward throughout the whole.
Dave.
I don't know what to say. That was pretty good. No, it's I chose this film again. I think just because of maybe the mood that I'm in when I pick this one up again, and I invariably do. A couple times a year. That's what I'll do, and it's.
Well, Dave, what did you tell me you were experiencing when you first saw this film?
So the first time I saw this movie, I had just indulged in some shrooms with a bunch of my friends, and
Of course.
But this was, I was coming down off of good shroom high, and I was just sort of looking for something to watch, and I threw this in, and I was expecting to sort of just pass out while watching this movie, and I sat in rapt attention through this whole film.
All right, but when you watched it this
Yeah.
new time, this new fresh time, were you in a shroomy haze?
No,
No.
not at all.
Were you in any sort of intoxicated haze?
No,
You were completely clear when you watched the film.
Here we go again.
the second time around, yes, I was
Completely clear.
as clear as I ever am. I guess I don't know.
Well, that's hopeful, Dave.
You're getting somewhere, Dave.
Well,
Dave.
Here we go again.
I know.
Dave, you told me you watched this film high on mushrooms.
Oh,
Now you're watching this film completely crystal clear. That's progress, no?
Sure, yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Is it?
Is that you trusting your own brain chemistry to process a work of art in an
I
objective
guess,
way
but I didn't even
that you can have an emotional response to?
Yeah, but I mean, I certainly didn't look at it in those terms. It was literally just, I'm tired, I want to watch a movie, and just sort of pass out. And that's the movie I happened to put in. And
Dude, I'm not going to put on Alan Parker's Pink Floyd's The Wall straight. Do you understand? I'm going to get pretty fucked up and say, dudes, are you ready? Let's fucking watch Pink Floyd's The Wall. But you didn't have that experience with Naked.
no.
The
No.
point is, you don't have to always intoxicate yourself with a drug or with booze to watch a very deep, powerful film that meant something to you.
Yeah,
How do you know this is the extent of Dave's
I
addiction?
agree
mean,
with you completely.
do you think Dave has a problem, Max? Is that what's going on here? Because that's what I was picking up from hearing from the last episode. I mean, what's leading you to believe that?
Listen, I'm never someone that thinks someone has a problem, but if he's going to tell me, oh, dude, because I was like, I sent him some text. It was a line from the movie. He didn't know what I meant. I clarified it. Oh, right, that. He said, oh, yeah, I was blasted on shrooms when I saw that. I'm paraphrasing. So it's like, oh, okay, well.
Oh, you thought it was this
Was he recommending the film based on a shroom blasted experience?
No.
Is he recommending the film on, no, this is a great film for the depression show?
No,
You know
I've
what I
watched
mean?
it several times since, a couple times a year, probably ever since. And
Okay, well, that's full. I didn't know that.
it was more just that happened to be the circumstance around which I saw the movie. It certainly, I don't think, enhanced my first watching of the film, because I was pretty confused, I think, by the end of it. But watching it again, and I got a clearer picture of what was going on and what the movie was about, and I always came back to it. It just spoke to me.
Okay, well, I watched the film on 1.5 glasses of wine, and I enjoyed it, but still thought it was a bit of a meandering mess.
Yeah, it probably is. It probably is.
I mean, it has no story, which is fine. I don't need a story. Okay? It's a journey. That's great.
Right.
Okay? And this dude starts out committing what I think is an insanely heinous act.
And that's
or it could be misconstrued.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe the victim or the woman reacted in a way that was over the top. I don't know. But the fact is, I am told in the beginning, oh, this guy's done something pretty awful to a woman.
Right.
And for me personally, because of my relationship with women, whatever, I feel like, oh, well, this guy's a fucking scumbag.
Right.
And sure enough, throughout the course of the film, he does nothing but scummy, mean, sort of cruel, awful, insulting, derogatory things. Like he reduces people if they don't think on his level. This beautiful man takes him in, the security guard, and he kind of treats him like shit.
Yeah.
But I understood that he was challenging his brain and that he was trying to get him to think on a broader scale, and that was all.
Yeah, you're right,
cool,
though.
but
He's reducing him.
yeah, I'm just like, fuck you, you douchebag. You deserve the beating you got at the end.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, I'm like, oh my God, Thewlis is amazing, and this is so gripping, but it didn't. The problem is the film just didn't. It didn't go into my bloodstream at all.
Wow. Well, Max, that happens a lot, I think, with like, say, even like, you watch The Sopranos. I mean, Tony Soprano's a disgusting character. Honestly.
But the thing about T, he, deep down in his subconscious, all he wants to be is a good person.
But say,
and he
what about Vic Mackey? Watching that show now.
I'm not that deep in. I'm only about 5 eps in
All right,
that,
okay. But you know what I'm getting at, though, Max.
yeah.
But Max, you're right. What you just said there, deep down, he wants to be a good. What'd you say? He wanted to be a good person, or what was it?
Oh no, I think
The Soprano.
Well,
he wants to deep down. He wants to be a good person, or something like that.
Tony Soprano is a nihilistic, self-destructive human. Okay.
Right.
And he is also a mob boss, okay? But he's a put-upon mob boss. He really he really shouldn't be a mob boss, and he'll never admit it, but he knows that. But he knows how to love. He knows how to feel, especially when it comes to animals. Tony doesn't have a relationship with humanity. He has a relationship with the animal race.
That's so
okay?
funny,
And
man. 'Cause what you're saying is a lot how I feel about the character in this film.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because they're similar.
Yeah,
some ways
and
they're
it's
very
funny.
similar.
It's because you're almost describing the character in this film,
And how
right
you
there,
feel
man.
about the arc of the character is similar too. You know, where you realize that what you're watching is a disgusting person, but yet you have these feelings of love, for them.
Well, though, if you think about it like this, Max, is that the whole film is a sacrament of self-flagellation. He's basically bringing it down. All this self-fulfilling prophecy business. I said it in my review. What he's doing is fulfilling his own prophecy and bringing down his his little apocalypse or his beating or his punishment for what he did because he's reprehensible, And I kind of said that he goes and grabs the hand of that dickhead with the underwear on, and I kind of said this we kind of worked this out, me and Tom in that bar this weekend, was that he was like, well, what is that, who is that guy, what is he, I guess he was getting at, what does he represent? And in a lot of ways it's what Thulis' character is, except without the humanity. You know what I mean? He's not apologetic whatsoever. And even though this Thulis character can't be apologetic on the surface, he needs to get a beating so he can find that humility to submit.
Yeah, and you could also look at the end too with him walking away from Louise as really a kind gesture.
I kind of have a different read on that.
Do you understand what I'm saying, though? That he's just like, you know what? I'm not going to put this woman through any more of my bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk away from it. I'm going to walk away from it, and I'm going to give somebody a break for once because they don't deserve it. And you could look at that ending like that, which is fucking depressing.
I think it's a good read. How about this I think it's actually really good. It's probably actually the correct read, but I would say what I had interpreted it as is that he finds that moment of grace because she stands by him the whole time and she's a good person, and he accepts that, but only fleetingly, only for a minute, because he needs to go on his next mission of self-flagellation because he can't give himself a break. You know what I mean? But I think it's probably tied into.
I'm more on Joe's side with this. I'm on Joe's side with this.
Because it's cruel. It's cruel to her.
Yeah.
Like he wants to do that, but he can't. I think that it's a fine point, but I think,
Tom's read is great, but I'm behind you on that one, Joe.
Guys, I want to move on to Control because I really can't wait to talk. We're going to talk about Control for a long time too, but I do want to offer any last thoughts on Naked before we move on.
I love his mustache. That was one thing that I really.
Oh, by the way, I do have a last thought. If any you guys want to know what I look like when I walk around with the gout, just watch the last 30 seconds of Naked.
Jesus, Tom.
Because that's what it is.
Except now you have a military haircut.
Yeah. But anything else, guys? All right, let's wrap it up then. We'll start with you, Dave, once again on the rent, buy, or avoid.
I love this movie. So I don't know. I think if you think maybe you're like me, you'll probably like it too, and you should buy it. And if you're like, that guy's an idiot, probably don't buy it. That's probably a good.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a good yardstick right there.
Max, what are you thinking, dude?
I really enjoyed it in the moment. It was just an in the moment film for me. I really love everything that all of you guys are saying. You all have amazing points about this film. It's complex, but I really think the whole thing rides on David Thewlis's performance, which I think is really extraordinary and very special. So at the same time, I would say you're best off just renting.
Joseph.
I love this film, and again, I got more out of it the second time I watched it here, especially with the subtitles, Tom, like you did. But I can't. It's going to be hard for me to say to buy it when it's streaming on Netflix, and all you have to do is, type in a few.
Yeah, but it's different though to have that, but to have it in a.
I know. Well, yeah. Well, you know what? If you
don't want to miss Mike Leigh's commentary.
Well, I think that it is a really good film. So I would say that if you are a DVD collector, it's definitely worth to have in your collection. It's really pretty fascinating.
I definitely think it should be in someone's collection too. I love this movie, and Dave, I'm wholeheartedly thanking you for bringing it to the cutting room. I adore this film. I am going to try to add it to my collection as soon as I could. As soon as I could purchase it, I got to find. I guess online. I guess would be the best way to do it. I'm ready for some more Mike Leigh, Joe.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Uh oh. Dave.
Yep.
I want to thank you too, because I ran this art house video store in Seattle for a year in 1990. I guess it was 1995. And Naked was always a popular renter. And all I remember was the word naked and half of David Thewlis's face peeking around a wall. And it was so in demand, it was stupid. And it was VHS. And I was like, why does everyone want to see this thing? If they weren't renting Naked, they were renting Four Weddings and a Funeral. And at the time, I had enough anger to say, everyone wants to see this. I don't want to see it because everyone wants to see it. Fuck them. They're all idiots. They're all, cattle or whatever. I mean, to independent film, which is so stupid and worthless. But it's taken me this long. And I mean, I hit the play button with glee. I was so excited to take the journey, and I really enjoyed the journey. I just wish it stuck with me more. But I do thank you.
I'm sad it didn't. I understand how it might not. I understand how it's a very experiential film. It's about.
What does that word mean?
It's about the experience. So it's about the experience of watching it and the journey of watching it. It's maybe not necessarily a reflective film, but I found it so. I spent a long time thinking about a lot of the things that Johnny says in this movie.
Mm.
And it's interesting, I think, almost to chart how my reactions to his ideas have changed over the years.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that tells an interesting story. There's things that definitely as a younger man, I was all, gung-ho behind Johnny. And as an older man, I kind of go, I cringe a bit,
I can see that.
It's a little like, ouch, I can't
Especially
believe.
with you, Dave.
Yeah, it's like, man, wow, I was dumb. Or actually, that's really awful, and that's a really awful way to treat people, and that's a really awful way to. So, I mean, it's interesting how your perspective changes over the years, and now you're almost watching the film in a completely different way.
Mm.
I shared that experience, Dave. I know where you're coming from, man. I mean, all that philosophical pontification that he's going through, like I connect with it at points there. I know what you're saying. Where,
well, when I saw the movie, I mean, shit. Okay, look, here's what so much of the shit comes down to. When I saw this movie, you want to be the guy who cut somebody down in a conversation like that. You want to be the guy who can just go in there, analyze a situation, and tear it up.
Well, that's what surprised me when you're saying, and I heard this, but I actually couldn't even believe that it's a improvised. I think some of those lines and some of that line of thinking just sounds like it's. Like when you're in situations, you wish you had a chance to write it down and you could read it. You know what I mean?
The banter is so good. It's so good. I don't know, but that's kind of where I'm interested in the film now is more about how I relate to it versus how I related to it at earlier stages. It's interesting how it grows with you.
Oh, one last thing. When you're watching it for the first time, you're keeping up with the guy and you don't have a chance to sort of judge what he's saying or put a value on what he's saying, like you're just basically trying to interpret what he's saying and understand it. And then as you see it a second time, you're judging him for why he's saying it like this or why he's behaving like this and what the motivations are behind his cruel philosophy of life, Absolutely. The second time you see it, the more you see it, you have a different kind of perception of how to interpret what's actually happening in the film.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to the second half of our classic review theme.
You all right there,
Well,
Tom?
what are we talking about, guys? Here, what are we talking about?
Depression.
Depression.
Yeah, depression.
Puppies.
It's just getting me down right now.